Hello, everyone. This is Danny Hidalgo, your purpose coach, and today is your dose of revolutionary content that encourages you to ignite your power through your purpose. I'm here with Toby Israel and Heather Paris. Say hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, so today we are creating a panel. I love these things. I love going to them, and this is my first live one. And today we're talking about living the laptop life from quarantine to explorer. So I'm really excited. I don't know if you ladies are excited. Are you excited about
Yeah, totally.
So excited.
Okay, so the idea here is not to go back to your old routine. Am I right, girls?
Amen. Amen.
We have to start getting away from our usual routines to try to live something different, a better life. And I want you all to know that laptop life is what we're talking about today. So if you can type in the comments below, we want to know if you can hear us and if you're ready to get that lifestyle going. We are here to serve you and to give you all the knowledge that you need to move forward in that area. Okay. So it looks like we're good. We're live. Okay, so let's get started. So first, I want to tell you a little about these ladies and the amazing life that they've created. So Toby Israel is a vagabondess, and I love that word, Toby. She's a writer and facilitator. She's traveled and lived many places and is at home everywhere. She believes that words are medicine and that stories can heal the world. She wrote her book, Vagabondess, A Guide to Solo Female Travel. And yeah, basically, she just launched this puppy this year, right? Right, Toby?
Published a week ago.
Yeah.
A week and a half ago.
So exciting, so exciting. And then Heather Paris is a certified family life coach, best-selling author, strategic interventionist, marriage educator, yogi, certified breathwork practitioner, and neurolinguistic programmer. Damn, Heather, you made me read all that.
Sorry.
She and Thad, her husband, are coaches, and they run their company, Live Inspired Now, as well as the Inspired Life School, while traveling with their 2 dogs, and they love every moment of their inspired laptop life. You have 2 dogs
Yes.
now? This is new. I thought you had 1.
No, 2 dogs. We got Spencer. Geez, it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah? Awesome.
Yeah. He's my BFF. I love him. He's so
Sweet.
cute. 4 pounds, big attitude.
Well, we're going to talk about how you manage to travel with pets. That's a whole, like, that could be a whole nother show, but
Yeah, totally.
okay. Do you have any pets, Toby?
No, I was just about to say I wish I could have a dog. And up until now, my lifestyle just hasn't been conducive to having pets. So I pretend that my friends' dogs are my dogs and get through that way.
The best part is that they're like children, right? You borrow them and then you give them back.
Exactly.
Okay, so good. We have a little bit of variety here. That's good. Okay, so I'm really excited to bring you this panel because these amazing women are just amazing. They both have books, and we're going to talk all about how they live their laptop life, basically. And we want you guys to start thinking about what your new normal could be. Right, ladies?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know you ladies, but I've already seen people start to connect with some close friends and family, and businesses are reopening. So basically, life is resurfacing, and it's time to get really real about what we want to do. And what better conversation to have than to liven it up right now with potential? And the potential is it could include travel, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think now's a really good time to have the conversation too, because at least I'm in Rhode Island and the stores just started opening up and people are getting out again. But what I've been hearing from a lot of people is, no, I'm not ready. I want to stay home. I want to stay home with the kids, or I don't want to go back to work. In fact, I was literally before this just on the phone with somebody who was in tears because she didn't want to go back to work. So yeah, now's a good time to really start thinking about what you want to do and making that happen.
Absolutely.
And I know right now a lot of us are seeing that jobs we thought had to happen in an office actually can just as easily be accomplished via laptop.
Right.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And the trends were going that way already for a while, but I think this whole situation has really accelerated the shift towards digital nomadism.
Absolutely. Ironically, the company I work for in the daytime was about to have most of the workforce in office. So I laugh about it now because I mean we're not going anywhere. But I wanted to mention one more really funny thing I saw. I think I told you, Heather. There was a meme about people going back to work, and it was actually a cat in a harness. We'll talk about that in a second because we know cats and harnesses don't go together. But basically, the cat was being dragged back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what people are feeling right now. They just don't want to go back, or if they go back, they want to go on their terms, just like a cat would, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also like just, laptop lifestyle aside, which we're going to get into, but if you have to stay at your corporate job or you want to stay at your corporate job, there's no better time than now to ask your employer to consider you as a remote employee. I mean, if you're going to put that out there, do it now, right? Hey, like I can function at home. I've shown that I can get the work done. Why not let me be a remote employee going forward? I think a lot of employees would be certainly more open to it now, don't you think?
Absolutely. And not to mention that, like, even public education here in New York,
Mm-hmm.
they've created systems for teachers. And actually, they've been using some old systems as well, like Google Hangout and Classroom and things like that. But some people are creating systems that allow people to do it. So it's never been easier to actually get that started.
Totally.
Okay.
I have a confession to make. I've actually never worked in an office. I've been a digital nomad since 2014.
Nice.
2013, which is when I basically entered the workforce as a writer and editor. So I'm not sure I can fully relate with that feeling of being dragged back to the office because that's never happened to me.
Oh, so lucky, so lucky. But you know what? I mean, every situation is different. I actually enjoyed the office for a bit. For a bit.
Co-working, so I can see what the benefits would be. Also, being surrounded by hopefully creative, like-minded people who are excited about their work. That's fun.
Yeah, or completely distracted depending on your personality type. Okay, so let's get into your stories because I mean you're here, and I want to get into all of the details and how you both basically ended up having this laptop life. So Toby, let's start with you. What basically how did your individual purpose bring you to traveling and living this laptop lifestyle?
Sure. So I was really lucky to be raised in a family of travelers. So I started traveling really young and caught the travel bug really early on. And so by the time I got to university, I had, this pretty deeply rooted curiosity about the world and learning about other cultures and exploring other places. Got my degree in anthropology and promptly left the United States and started traveling pretty much full time. And for a long time, my purpose, if you will, was to travel, was to move, was to just continually be in movement and be in exploration. And so I designed a laptop lifestyle around that purpose. And I sought work and jobs that would enable me to keep living that way.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I think you have a similar story, Heather, right? I mean, you started young too.
Yeah, mine's a little different, I guess, as an adult. But my dad was in the military, so we traveled all over the world. So I lived in Europe until I was 10, almost 11 years old, and then we came back to the States. And so, when you're a military family moving every 3 years, when I was a kid, I used to think I didn't like it, although it was fun to be able to reinvent myself everywhere I went. But I used to think like, it would be nice to have a homestead, to stay in one place. And then I became an adult and I like every 2 to 3 years, I'm ready to move. I'm like ready to go, right? So and then my ex-husband, not my current husband, but my ex-husband was in the military as well. So then we were moving all the time. That was perfect for me. And then I started, of course, and I have kids. So I was like, what can I do to stay home with the kids and to be able to travel? So I became an entrepreneur. And I don't know if you know this about me, Tiani, but like a million years ago, when I first became an entrepreneur, I was selling rubber stamps and I had a whole setup in my basement and I would like work off of my laptop selling rubber stamps, and I would
Wow.
manufacture them, literally manufacturing them in my basement, making them from raw materials to stamps. So that was like my first real entrepreneurial business, and I ended up selling the company too, made a little money. So that was cool. But my passion has always been to help and to serve. And so I did that for a while in corporate life as, a case manager, that kind of thing. But then I really wanted to be doing that in private practice. So I became a coach. And it's funny too, because I would say the past 4 or 5 homes that I've owned, I always tell the kids, "Oh, this is going to be our forever home. I love it." And they laugh in my face. They're like, "No, it's not. We're going to move again." And every damn time we end up moving again. And I'm like, "Okay, well, this is the forever home. Really, I'm going to want to stay." And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And then we end up moving. So I
Okay.
love to travel. And now we live in an RV. We sold our house
Well,
last year. We live in an RV, and sorry, I'm probably getting ahead of stuff, but
I
and
love
we
it. I love
travel
it.
all over the place.
I
So
love it.
and
So,
I thought it was appropriate, by the way, to do this talk in the vehicle. So I'm in my truck.
absolutely. Agreed. Agreed. So I want to know how long each of you has lived in one place. Like, what's the longest you've ever lived in one place? Toby, you want to start?
Sure. I was born and raised in Boston, and I lived in the same house in Boston until I was 17.
Gotcha.
And as an adult, I'm coming in right now from Costa Rica, and I've been here almost 3 years. And it's the longest I've just continually by my terms, I've traveled often, but this is my base for 3 years.
Got it. Good stuff.
I've never lived anywhere for more than 5 years. I think 5 is even a stretch, maybe 4. But I've never lived anywhere. We'll say 5 to be safe, but I've never lived anywhere for more than 5 years. And I'm 48, and I've had more than 45 addresses in my life. So far.
Insane. So to give you all perspective, I came to this country when I was 2, and I've been living in the same town since I was 2. And I am 42 now. So
that's amazing.
But that said, I've traveled to many, many places. Probably not as many as both of you have, but still. Just to give you all perspective on the fact that you can still work in corporate and still have a laptop lifestyle. You don't have to actually live in an RV or actually live in another country. You can still work from home on your laptop, right? There's different perspectives.
Absolutely.
There's a flavor for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yep, totally.
Okay. So why do you ladies think that this idea of traveling and being out in the world is so important and relevant right now? Heather, start with you.
Oh, okay. Why do I think it's important? Well, I think I've always thought that was important for everybody to get a taste of the world, just for experience. I mean, not to get all philosophical here, but I fully believe that we come to this earth to experience the fullness and richness of life. And so if you're not experiencing it, I mean, part of that experience for me is to travel and to learn about different cultures. And part of my commitment as a parent was also to get my kids, somebody's walking up to my truck, to get my kids familiar with other cultures and just to experience things. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just, I don't know, I can't even like literally wrap my head around not experiencing different places. I mean, I can tell you my favorite places all over the world. You know what I mean? Like Garmisch in Germany. Garmisch was my favorite place because it was these beautiful snowy mountains, and my parents took us to this like indoor water park. You know what I mean? So cool. And then last year we were in Mexico and we released baby turtles on the beach. I've never done that before. That was a new experience. So every single place, it's not just like going and sitting around on a hammock like looking at the sea. It's about experiencing the culture and doing things that you don't have a chance to do anywhere else. That's for me, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. How about you, Toby?
I absolutely agree with Heather, and I want to add to that. I think travel is one of the best antidotes out there to fear. And I'm mostly trying to avoid my social media feeds now, because when I do pay attention to them in the last few months, what I see is a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an antidote to fear in two ways. First of all, it brings us into contact with difference in a lot of different ways, and it teaches us to find those common connections and common threads of humanity underneath apparent differences. And then it also teaches us to embrace or come to terms with our fundamental vulnerability and sort of the basic insecurity of being alive. And what I'm observing right now in the world is just so much insecurity about income, about health, about safety. And when we travel, I think we confront the fact that that's always the case.
Absolutely. Agreed.
I agree. Can I add something to that
Yeah.
too? I like what you said. I love what you just said, Toby. And also I was thinking about that too, because if you, the more places you travel, the more different kinds of people you meet from different areas or whatever, the less fearful you become of them. And I think that that's one of the things that we can do for our children is to open them up to different cultures and lifestyles, so that, you know, it's the, like you said, the unknown that we're fearful of. So if you know lots of different people with lots of different colors, with, you know, eating lots of different foods and living in lots of different areas, then you're less afraid of them. I think it just opens up like humanity more. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I can't agree with you more about the children thing. I took my son on his first trip to Europe last year, and he loved it. I mean, I usually travel domestically with him, but it was his first international flight. So it was, not to mention, super long for like a 9-year-old or 8-year-old at the time. But it also exposed him to different cultures, different languages, different towns, I mean, everything culturally, right? And so one of the things I wanted to say to what both of you were saying is also that in the United States, and both of you, you know, born and raised here, I wasn't, but the culture here is so sort of stuck on staying where you are and not moving. And I don't know if it's just an American thing or maybe an East Coast thing. Maybe y'all can tell me, because I know you guys have been everywhere. But it feels like that. And so when I graduated college, the first thing I wanted to do was get the hell out of town, right? But I'm also not from this country. So my thinking is, I've been traveling to my country forever. And to me, that's traveling, right? But I wanted to know what else was out there instead of just New York, instead of just Dominican Republic. So I don't know if you guys have that same feeling or perspective. Either one.
I don't know. I think when you're from a city, like especially New York City, where a lot of people from other countries, when they're moving to the United States, they go to, right, a big city like that, then it feels like you are seeing everything. But if you're in a tiny town, because I've lived in cities and tiny, like literally tiny towns, in tiny towns, there's just no resources. There's less to do, less to see. And so people feel like they need to go, to move, to travel. So I don't know. I don't know if, I don't know. Toby, what do you think?
I've been writing about traveling for a long time, and people, and usually women, reach out to me, and what I see is they express curiosity about traveling, about going somewhere else, but there's this really strong hesitation to actually do it, to actually break out of that static lifestyle or to leave the place that they are. And the hesitation usually, from my perspective, it usually comes from this fear that they won't be able to turn back, that if they leave, there's no coming back. And it's actually not the case. What I found is you usually can go back, and usually the place you're from doesn't change that much. And the people that you leave behind will still be there and will still be, have their arms open to welcome you back if you want to come back. But I think that fear is behind a lot of the hesitation for people who do want to go somewhere else and are just not able to get the momentum going.
Right. It's funny because I always hear people who are from New York saying, well, if you leave New York, you're never coming back. Because it's almost like when you're here, you're kind of like in walls, right? And then when you're out there, it's like, like you see the light somehow. So it's kind of funny. Okay. So now, we've been talking about, kind of changing your mindset and how important it is to sort of see it from a different perspective. I find that it's very cathartic to get out there and travel, but it requires a mindset shift, right? So how can people start to wrap their minds around opening up to becoming more explorative than just stationary? Toby.
For me, the fundamental thing to do is cultivate trust. Trust in yourself, trust in other people, and trust in the universe or some higher power, however you want to conceive of it. But for me, it's these 3 levels of trust that you can start cultivating at home, but that you'll really need to draw on if you're going to travel, and especially if you're going to solo travel, but not only that. Because once you have that trust in yourself, then you know how to listen to your intuition, and you know how to stay safe, how to keep yourself safe, you know how to answer the call if a certain place is calling to you. Once you learn how to trust people, you can really sort of relax into a journey, because it's not any fun to travel and then just be afraid of everyone and afraid of everything. And then if you trust that there is some force looking out for you, I don't even know if that's the right way to say it, but that there's some purpose behind your journey, and that you're following that purpose by traveling, then I think it imbues the whole experience with a certain level of meaning and security that makes it a lot easier to let go and to keep traveling.
Yeah. So how can people start cultivating trust? I know you in particular, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I know for women, it's a little scarier to travel. So how do you do that?
So yeah, I think we'll get into that in a minute, but in general, I find that any kind of mindfulness practice, yoga, martial arts, meditation, that connects us with our body and connects us with that voice of intuition, that's a good starting place. Learn, any practice, any activity that teaches us to listen and to trust whatever we hear. I was going to say something else and I completely lost my train of thought. But, mindfulness for me is a really good place to start. And then it's tautological, but you kind of just have to start doing it, whatever it is. And you learn that you can trust yourself, that you can trust other people by trusting yourself and by trusting other people. Absolutely. So to do it, you have to do it.
Right. Yep. Makes sense. How about you, Heather? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say one of the biggest things is to reaching out and, leaning on other people. When we went to Mexico last year, I had never been to Mexico, and I was a little bit nervous traveling outside of the country. Actually, it was this year. Did I say last year? It was this year. Feels like 2 years have gone by. It was just a couple of months ago, and I was a little bit nervous, because all of the Corona stuff had just started. That wasn't like, like it is now where everything was closed down yet. But I was feeling a little nervous about that because I hate flying anyway. I do it, but I hate it. But reaching out to people. So I reached out to the people that we were going to be staying with, and I let them know, hey, I'm feeling a little nervous. Can you walk me through exactly what to do? And so they're like, yeah, of course. Here's the steps, right? Make sure you have this, this, and this. And then there's going to be a car to pick you up from the airport. They were like, don't stop in the airport. You got to go outside to the 7th umbrella. And everyone will tell you they're the umbrella, but no, don't listen to them. Go outside of the doors and go to the 7th umbrella where you're going to meet Juan. And so, we just followed instructions, and it did make us feel far more secure because somebody else had already done it and knew what to do. And so, they had set up the turtle thing for us. So it was just really, really nice to be able to have somebody to reach out to. And by the end of our trip, we were, totally like, oh, we could do anything now, right? Pros, exactly. We're telling the next people that are coming, because some other friends came after us, and I'm messaging them. Oh, it's so easy. You just make sure you go to the 7th umbrella and talk to Juan. I'm typing it all out to them. So I think it's nice to do that, and then also, having a list of things that you want to do and places you want to go. When my kids were little, we did so much research. Like they went to public school, but we also homeschooled, right? Because public school doesn't offer any kind of cultural stuff. So we used to dive into like different countries and learn about their languages and their culture and their food and their clothes and all that stuff. And we would literally make a list of things that we wanted to do in other countries. So that's one of the ways that kind of spark your inspiration about where you want to go. Just be excited about some things that they offer. And I'll tell you why. Because here's what happened. I won't say who. She's not my friend anymore, but I won't say her name. So I was living in Rhode Island, where I'm actually at now. This was a million years ago. And a friend from New York says, we've never been to Rhode Island. We'd really like to come. I'm like, sure, come visit. You can stay in my guest room, whatever. So they came and she had a list of things she wanted to do. Now we are in Rhode Island on the ocean, right? A million ocean type amazing stuff to do. I'm like, so what do you want to do while you're here? We want to go to Target. We want to go to the IMAX theater and we want to go to the Providence Place Mall. I'm like, well, okay, but what do you want to do? She's like, what do you mean? That's what I want to do. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? You like came to a state that you've never been to and you want to go to Target and the movies and the mall? That's dumb. I didn't say that. Well, maybe I did. Maybe that's why we're not friends anymore. I don't know. But like, come on. And then one day I like forced her. I'm like, you got to come to the beach. So I brought her and the kids to the beach, and the kids went and found jellyfish eggs on the beach or whatever they're called. And they were picking them up, put them back in the water. And they just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then we stopped and we got authentic Rhode Island food, like clam cakes and chowder and all this stuff. I'm like, this is what you do when you come to Rhode Island. But we're not friends anymore, so. But that's what I mean. Don't like plan your trip around Target and Walmart. I mean, if you have to go to those places, like we had to run to Walmart when we were in Mexico because you're not allowed to bring shampoo and all the things that toothpaste, the big thing of toothpaste. So we stopped at Walmart. We got our toothpaste and shampoo and stuff and brought it back to the resort, and that was it. But just come up with some things that you really want to do. Find out, look up a country or a state or a place wherever you're going to go and find out what is unique about that spot. Even get the book, like, where the biggest cowboy boot is or some crap like that. Like we've seen so many weird landmarks when we've been traveling across the country, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
So that's
Toby,
input.
do you have like a thing that you do, like a checklist, if you will, of things that you want to do in every place you go to?
Not so much. I would say I have the opposite traveling style to Heather. I tend not to have any plans. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well for me. So there's definitely something to be said to doing enough research that to go to the seventh umbrella, for example. Because otherwise sometimes you end up getting on the bus the wrong way out of the airport, or just so many travel mishaps can be avoided by doing just the minimum of research. But beyond that, I really love to leave space for just the spontaneous adventures that come up when I'm traveling, and stop to talk to someone on the street and they say, hey, there's live music at this place tonight, you should check it out. And then I go there and then I meet some other people and they say, oh, we're going to hike up this mountain tomorrow, you should come. And I end up, when I travel that way, I end up finding things that either aren't in the guidebooks or maybe I might have overlooked. And it leaves not just my schedule open, but it leaves the mental space open to allow those kinds of experiences to arise. And when I fill up the mental space with the things, the plans and the things that I want to do, then I often miss the spontaneous things that come up because I'm focused on getting through my list.
Right. That makes sense. I'm probably a mix of both of you.
That's what I am. Just to be clear, I don't make a list. I'm just saying, if people are wanting inspiration about where they should go, like you could just look up some cool stuff. You know what I mean? But we don't have the only thing on our list is food. Like we want to find every vegan restaurant in every town that we go to. But we don't have, we don't have a list that we have to check off or anything. We're definitely a mix, but we do look up like the things, like when we went to South Dakota, we're like, okay, well, when we're here, we definitely want to see Mount Rushmore because that's been a dream of mine. But other than that, it's all very loose. Other than that, it's just like whatever adventure happens. When we're in South Dakota, my husband didn't book us a rental car. So when we got there, we had no rental. Well, it turns out there was a function that week. there was no rental cars. There was one rental car left in the whole freaking state, and it was a brand new Mustang, like with every bell and whistle, convertible. It was
Wow.
gorgeous. $500 for one day they charged us.
Wow.
So yeah, but we took it, and Thad drove the hell out of that car, and he had a blast. We did have a blast, but that was ridiculous to pay $500. They're like, well, what are you gonna do? It's the only car left, right?
See, the only way you're
So
going to drive that car, Heather, if you don't plan. Just saying.
yeah, right. Exactly. So we are a mix of both. Like we'll look and see some things that we want to do, and we'll fit them in if they're really something that's important to us. But otherwise, we're pretty flexible and go by the seat of our pants.
Absolutely. So now that we've established a little bit of the mindset that we sort of need to start getting into, what are tips that you ladies have on easily integrating someone into this lifestyle of either having a laptop lifestyle where they travel everywhere, or just like, being domestically, traveling, etc. What do you guys recommend? Toby?
Go ahead, Toby.
Sure. I think it's important to keep in mind that there's not one right way to travel. And speaking specifically to the laptop lifestyle, there's not, and you said this at the beginning, there's not one right way, or there's not one only way to have a laptop lifestyle. You can live in one place and work from home. You can be living nomadically in the US and working on a laptop, or you can be living internationally and roaming around and working on a laptop. And I would hate for someone to think that they can't get out and explore more or tap into their adventurous side because they don't want to do it the way I do it, or they don't want to do it the way Heather does it. So I almost, rather than thinking about how can we integrate someone into this lifestyle, I would encourage people to think about how can you adapt this lifestyle to your interests and your dreams and your purpose and make it work for you, because it's actually very flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people their biggest goal might be to just explore, like, when I was in New York, upstate New York, their biggest goal might be to explore the gorges in upstate New York and never really care about leaving the state or the country. It's entirely up to you. There's no right or wrong. You don't have to be wanderlust. You don't have to desire to travel to India or backpack across Europe to be a traveler. Just travel the way it works for you and work your schedule around it. I mean, I don't even laptop anymore, honestly. I'm like iPhone lifing. I do everything from my phone now because I don't even want to carry my laptop bag, right? So, and that just works better for me. So, yeah, I agree with you, Toby. It's kind of like just adapt your life to whatever you want to do and make it work. So if you have to, like Thad, if he knows he has to get on the computer, we make sure that we are parked somewhere where we can get on Wi-Fi, or if we have to, turn on the RV, that we're stopped somewhere where we're not running the generator, it's going to be loud, like whatever. There's just little tweaks that you have to make, but it's easy enough to do. Or like right now, I know that the air conditioner is running in the RV and it's like impossible to hear. You wouldn't be able to hear me. So I'm sitting in my truck, like whatever. You just kind of get flexible and make it work. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Got it. So now that we have so many women traveling as well, obviously there's a lot of women out there that travel. How can we make women and help women feel more safe as they get out there? I mean, I traveled by myself. I think I mentioned to both of you when I was 42 years ago. And that was my first international trip by myself. I've traveled tons before with groups of people, but it's the first time I actually did a coordinated trip by myself. And I felt safe because I was within a group of people, even though I didn't know them. But what if you want to go out there by yourself and travel and backpack and everything by yourself? What do you recommend for ladies to do to feel better?
Well, for me, I say just be smart about it. Like, I mean, let's be realistic. For me, maybe other women would, but for me, I'm not going to go like hike a mountain at 9 p.m. in the dark by myself in an area that's known for coyotes, right? I'm just not going to do that. Like, to me, that seems like, just weigh your risks, right? What are you comfortable with? Now, I know some ladies that would be thrilled to do that, right? So not this gal. Hell no. And I'm more comfortable in a city, Whereas most people are more, some people would be more comfortable in a rural area. I don't know. But know yourself, know what you're willing to do, and just be safe about it. Let people know where you're at. Keep a cell phone with you all the time. I mean, I keep a can of wasp spray in the RV. I actually keep 2 cans because wasp spray, bug spray, it shoots 25 feet. So if anyone ever broke in the RV, I could spray them in the face with wasp spray, and it's like gives permanent damage. So I've never had to do that. I've always, people have always said to me too, like, oh, don't you feel like totally sketched out? Like, if you're parked somewhere, like, because we've had to park in like Cracker Barrel or something, you're on the road traveling, you just want to stop. You're not going to go find a campsite. Or even if we are in the middle of the woods in a campsite, aren't you scared? No, I mean, I'm in an RV. I can drive away, like if somebody, this is my friend Brittany always laughs at this line. I said, if somebody starts to murder me, I'll just drive away. Like, just drive away. So, if you're in a van, my daughter Carrie, she's 18. She just bought a van. Her and Thad, my husband, have like built a bed in it, and they've got a toilet. Like, they're working on this van conversion. She's going to literally live in it. She's 18 years old. I'm super thrilled for her. I'm not going to run around and let fear guide me or her. You know what I mean? If you start to get murdered or you feel scared, drive away. Like, you're living in a van. Drive your house away. It's easy.
Have you,
So you
ladies,
just gotta
have you heard of
go ahead.
the show Tiny House?
Mm-hmm.
They have it on Netflix. Basically, people are actually doing that more and more. They're building homes out of their trucks and are, expanding RVs and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. I love the tiny house life. I mean, we live in an RV at the moment, and it's, everyone says, oh, don't you get sick of each other, or it's so small. No, that's not the issue. Like, there's been some challenges for sure, but none of them have been around like security or the size of the RV. Like, the biggest issue I have personally is we have to go once a week to dump all the tanks, and it's just a giant pain in the ass because you get everything set and then you have to drive, so you can put everything down so it doesn't fall off the cupboards or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that's like irritating, but it's like whatever.
I hear you. Well, Toby, I know that you write a lot about women and security and traveling and all that in your book. So what do you recommend?
I do. It's definitely a central theme. My book, Vagabondess, it's meant to be a guide to solo female travel. And when people have asked me about solo female travel, the question I get most often is, but aren't you scared? Or, but isn't it dangerous for a woman to travel alone? So I felt like I really had to get into a lot of depth on answering that question. And I've had a lot of practice because I've been solo traveling on and off for the last 10 years since I was 18. So I've been asked it often. And when I started traveling solo, I didn't have a smartphone. I used to, Google Maps was a thing. So I used to like draw myself little maps to have directions. And then I would hop on a train. I was living in Paris at that time. I would hop on the train and then have my little hand-drawn map and try and orient myself when I got back above ground. And that was how I got around. And also printed maps were still a thing as well. And so I want to answer the question from 2 perspectives. The first is as a trained empowerment self-defense instructor. And that's a method I've been teaching for the last couple of years. It's also global movement teaching, a mix of martial arts techniques and verbal strategies for assertive communication. Awesome. And from that perspective, first of all, we talk about something called the shower rule, which is if you can't bring it into the shower with you, it can't be your primary tool for self-defense. So having a phone on you is great. Carrying your keys is great. Pepper spray can be great. All of those sort of secondary tools are great to have on hand. But it's important to keep in mind that you actually have everything you need to defend yourself and your body, your physical body, your voice, your brain. And if you really want to learn more about that, I would highly encourage anyone watching to look up empowerment self-defense or impact self-defense and find a course near you. It's all over the US.
I took one of those. It was awesome. And it was very empowering to take that.
Yeah. So it's fantastic. But I also, and you learn a lot about awareness and carrying yourself with confidence and setting boundaries and using your voice first to defend your space and your body before it ever comes to a physical altercation. So all of that's really important. Mm-hmm. However, I had no self-defense training for the first 7 years that I was traveling solo. So the other perspective I offer is I want to encourage people to change a little bit the conversation around women's safety. Because when we say, well, isn't it dangerous for a woman to travel alone? We ignore the fact that it's actually just dangerous to be a woman. And if you look at the numbers globally, the vast majority of violence against women, it comes from intimate partners, friends, and family members, people known to the woman. Vast majority. And so it's not that it's not dangerous to travel alone. You know, if you're in a city alone anywhere, there are dangers. If you're hiking alone anywhere, there are dangers. But it's actually just dangerous to be a woman. So I would prefer to make these discussions about, well, what can we do to make a world where women are safer, not just how can women travel safer.
Right. I love that. You can spread your message as you travel, right? I mean, I hope. I love that. But yeah, I'll write the name of the class after we're done here, because I'd love for more women to feel empowered and feel comfortable, you know, because I think safety is a big thing for women. But yeah, in general, it's an issue. Okay, so let's get a little bit back to inspiration and just having cathartic experiences. So like I said, I've traveled a little bit, but both of you ladies have traveled a lot more than me. What has been like your most nourishing experience traveling? I'm curious.
Well, I'll say that just before everything started shutting down, we were in Utah, and we were parked in a national forest, and we were literally parked under a grove of juniper trees, and there wasn't a soul around for 100 miles. It was just Thad and I in the RV. And just sitting, like I told him, I said, I never want to leave this juniper tree. Like, I want to sit under this juniper tree forever. It was so peaceful, and we could see the mountains. And I also had good cell service in that one spot, which is like, I don't care where we are, I need cell service. It was so quiet, and it was just beautiful. And there wasn't, I mean, it wasn't spectacular. I can't say, oh, you could hear the ocean waves or what. It was spectacular to me in every possible way. And it was just that quiet little grove of juniper trees in Utah.
It's the little things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. We were there for probably about 5 days. We just stayed parked there. And I was like, I did not want to leave. I spent one day, like, literally just laying around the whole day, just enjoying it with the windows open. And oh God, it was just beautiful. Although also, you know, so second place, I would say, was probably the Red Rocks of Sedona, for obvious reasons. Tiana,
Yes,
we've talked about
agreed.
Sedona. It is magical. Yeah.
It is.
So that was probably it for me. Although I have a million places that I could reference, but I think the juniper tree and then Sedona were really pretty magical for us.
Awesome. How about you, Toby?
Also, right, it's hard to choose and sort of zero in on one experience. But the first thing that popped into my mind was taking a month off from work in 2016 to walk across Spain on the Camino de Santiago. And, you know, we're talking about the laptop lifestyle, like it's this epitome of freedom and comfort, and it can be, but it can also, burnout is real, and working in front of a screen for hours a day can be exhausting and is hard on the body in its own way. So at that time, I was really burnt out and having little things going wrong with my body, like my wrists and my eyes from working so much on the computer. And I took a month off and just walked. You don't have time to do anything else when you're on the Camino. And it was incredibly nourishing not to think about work for a month. It was incredibly nourishing to just be in my body for all day, every day, just walking. And it was incredibly nourishing to be in nature and to be outside under the open sky, even when it rained, for the whole month.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So Donna.
Yeah, I know, right? Can't wait to go back.
I got a trip ready in July, so fingers
awesome. I know.
Okay, so this is all really exciting, and I'm kind of waiting to see how things open up. They're opening up slowly for everyone around here. So I don't know if Toby, things are a little bit better on your side or not, but I'm curious what you ladies think of sort of the future of travel. Like, do you think people are going to be like more scared now that all this stuff is happening, or do you think people are actually going to open up? And what do you think the future holds for business and travel? Having your own business and travel. Toby?
Hi. I think, honestly, I think that I don't know. I think that nobody knows right now. I've been really closely following a lot of projections about travel because I run my own retreats here in Costa Rica that rely on the tourism industry. And one of my jobs is working with a company or an organization that's based on transformational travel. So it's very important and interesting to me what's going to happen in this industry. And I've seen so many contradictory projections and predictions that I really think that nobody knows yet. And so in terms of what that means for my work, it means I'm grateful that I do more than one thing. And I think I never appreciated how much resilience that gave me before this year. But it has made me feel pretty certain that I want to continue to keep lots of different projects going, not just because it stimulates me and keeps me energized, but because it's resilient and adaptable.
Love it. How about you, Heather?
Yeah, I don't know either. Like all of the speaking, because I speak professionally, all the speaking engagements, all of my workshops, everything got canceled, and now everything online. I think that we're going to be forced to revolutionize the way we do stuff anyway. Like it used to be like, oh no, you have to come and do it in person. I think people are going to be so totes fine with like digital appearances now and stuff like that. So I think it'll be cool to not have to travel and fly across the country to go give a 45-minute talk. I'll just say, just Zoom me in, like if you don't have to do that, like everyone should know how to Zoom now. So I think it's going to change. I think that people are just going to be more tech savvy and be more open and willing to having presentations and things like that aren't in person. I mean, we have an empowerment company too. We do fire walks. Obviously, if you're going to do a fire walk, you got to be in person for that. But some of the other stuff I think can all be online now. So I think it's going to change, and I think people are going to travel less, honestly. I think people are just going to get scared because if you go on Facebook for 5 freaking minutes, you see like some people are like me, like, hey, it's all, we're going to be okay. Like you guys empowered, we'll get through this. And then there's people that are just terrified. They are sleeping with their masks on, probably. You know what I mean? So I think that travel is going to be less. And I really do. I think people are going to be, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be afraid to travel, especially outside of the country.
Yeah.
Me, we're already booking our trip for Mexico to go back next year instead of 1 week, 2 weeks. So it's not going to stop us, but I mean, everyone's different.
Well, I have my trip booked to Hawaii. It's still US, but it's really far from where I live. So I'm still going, damn it.
Yep. Yeah.
I do think that people are probably gonna, I don't know, this is my feeling and kind of my hope, especially in light of what I said earlier, that, a lot of the people I know don't really travel a whole lot. Outside of the US, I feel like people are going to start traveling a lot more domestically and getting to know their town and their areas and anywhere you can drive through.
Yep.
I personally have been wanting to take like a road trip across the US forever. So that might happen next year. A well-planned trip. I'll talk to you both about like how that's going to work. But I think that people are actually going to start traveling a lot more domestically and appreciating, I hope, where they are in the country they live in, and like kind of exploring local before they go out there again.
I think so too. I agree with that. Like, I stand by that. I think that the international travel is going to decrease like dramatically. But, there's such a trend right now to buy, like you said, vans and RVs, tiny homes, things like that. I mean, that's a whole niche now. Like, just on TikTok, especially, like you can watch van lifers for days. I mean, everybody, a lot of young people are buying vans, living in them, and traveling all over the country so they can see all the cool stuff.
I love it.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies. I want you both to talk about how we can connect with you. And I know, Toby, you have your book out, so I'd love to hear, about your book and where they can get it.
Sure. So my book, again, it's called Vagabondess, A Guide to Solo Female Travel. It's available on Amazon, Gumroad, which is digital only, and it should be on a few other sites like Barnes & Noble's for the ebook, but the links that I have right now are for Gumroad and Amazon. You can also just go to vagabondessthebook.com and read more about it and see some interviews and find the links to where you can buy it as well.
So exciting. Woohoo.
And I wanted to add, I forgot to mention this, but it's important. I did decide to release a book about travel, not only international travel, but with a bit of a slant towards that in the middle of a global pandemic. So obviously I'm an optimist. I think we're going to travel again.
I love that. I only hang with optimists, so you're in a good crowd. How about you, Heather? Where can we reach you?
Sure. So like everything about me is on my website, liveinspirednow.com. And you can get I have 3 books out. You can get my books there. They're on Amazon as well. But if you want them autographed, you can order from my website. But yeah, connect with me through Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. All of that stuff is on my website, liveinspirednow.com.
Plus your Our Vegan road trip.
That is also at liveinspirednow.com. Yep. Yeah. If you go to the website, liveinspirednow.com, you can click on Our Vegan Road Trip and you can see, like, we did restaurant reviews they're not all 100% up yet, but a lot of them are. So restaurant reviews, vegan restaurant reviews, on our site.
Love it.
But yeah.
Any final thoughts, ladies?
My final thought is travel. Just do it. Just do it. Just figure out a way to do it. Take your cell phone. If you have kids, don't let any excuse. If you have kids, take them with you. If you have a job, find out if you can work remotely. Don't just vacation 1 week a year. Vacation every day. Travel. Take your phone, take your laptop, do what you got to do to pay your bills. Maybe downsize, sell off a bunch of crap, and buy a van. Just one way or another, make it happen. Just do it. That's my final. That's my final answer.
I love it.
The motto as well. Just go. And I'd like to add that it's always easy to find reasons to be afraid and reasons not to do something. So don't let fear stop you, because it will always be there.
Amen.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you, ladies, so much for participating in this. I'm so excited to put this out there, especially because we're in the middle of a crisis. We want to
exactly.
put positive content out there and inspire people to get out, right? And do positive things for themselves, which I think this is definitely one of them. So thank you both for participating in this, Heather and Toby.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. We will post all of their social media, everything, in the comments below. If you have any questions for these ladies, please feel free to post below, and we will be monitoring all the questions and getting back to you on, ways that we can help and serve you have a better travel life, right? A better laptop life. So thank you all for joining me. This is Danny Hidalgo, your purpose coach, encouraging you to ignite your power through your purpose. Like this post, comment below, and share with someone who needs to hear this. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.